Julie Hamilton is our guest today, and she's a health coach who is an absolute expert in a really difficult health topic, fibromyalgia. Julie also has a corporate background in human resources and made a move to combine these two aspects of her background. She now consults with organizations and corporations to coach them to support their employees with chronic health conditions. I think this is such a compelling way to construct a health coaching practice, and I hope you get some ideas around how you can think more big picture as you go out into the world looking to make an impact on people's health. You can work with people directly, but you could also work more systemically. Lots to consider and lots to learn here. Enjoy the episode. Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Hello, Julie Hamilton. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
We're great. We love talking to other health coaches and otherwise nerding out on all things health coaching. So we would love to, as always, you got a little bit of a twist. You have a specialty that I think there's quite a few health coaches that can actually resonate with this. So I don't want to I don't want to lead the parade here. I want you to tell your story. So if you could just give our listeners a little bit of your origin story, your background story.
Okay. Well, I was an HR manager / director for many, many years. And then I relocated to Cincinnati, Ohio in 2015. But I had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2009. But when I moved to Cincinnati, my health really tanked. And I couldn't get out of bed. I was so sick. I was in bed 95% of the time and I couldn't work anymore. And I thought, this is not the life I want. So I started doing research on fibromyalgia, what I could do for myself. Then I found the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute, became a certified coach. So in January of 16, I started my own coaching practice, and my specialty is only fibromyalgia or chronic illness clients. But I was taking from what I could hear from my clients and having my HR hat on at the same time. And I decided I should mesh those two skills together and write a book, because I was finding out that HR people and businesses don't really know how to employ us. So I've taken that and gone out to write this book to help businesses learn how to work with the chronically ill.
I'm
So
obsessed.
that's kind of my niche, and that's what I'm passionate about, is helping individuals with fibromyalgia learn to manage it instead of the chronic illness or fibro, lupus, whatever it may be, manage them.
So I'm really obsessed with your origin story because, the fibro piece is obviously huge by itself. And there's lots of people who need help with fibromyalgia. I mean, in so many ways, it's a health condition that I don't understand at all. And I think generally is not understood. But you folded in your HR background and this element of the fact that you were unable to work because employers didn't know how to work with you and you didn't know how to work with your illness. I have a student in my business course right now who came up with this really cool niche, and it made me think of this when you were telling your story. He's a bricklayer, like a stonemason guy. He's a really strong, fit guy that lays stones. And at first he thought his niche would be fellow bricklayers. But then he realized his niche is actually the guys who hire bricklayers to come in and build retaining walls because these men are too unfit to build their own retaining walls. Right. So I just think it's so interesting to a lot of times when we think about our niche, we think about the health issue, fibromyalgia, insulin resistance, Hashimoto's, whatever it is, but also there's another layer we can bring into it. And so your niche is so cool, so unique, because you're also targeting employers to help them understand how to work with fibromyalgia sufferers. So so your niche being fibro, like who are you working with? Are you working mostly with the fibromyalgia sufferer, or do you have clients that are business owners, HR managers? Who are you working with?
I have been just working primarily with fibromyalgia clients,
Mhm.
and I have been working with them globally. So I've had clients in Europe, I've had Argentina, just all over the world, Canada. But then I'm like, well, people just really don't know how to work with us. And I think that's where I can come in and help train the managers or businesses because I have it. I know what my clients live with every day. And I think that's what makes it so real for me. And I can make it real for them,
Mhm.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about how, like, in order for you to have a business, you need to have a problem that you can
Mhm.
solve, right? You need to have a solution to a problem that somebody's willing to pay money to solve. And so with fibromyalgia sufferers, it's not only what they're going through day to day with that illness, but a big, big problem. Because I hear this from people too. Like, I was unable to work.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. Like, I always sort of interpreted that as they were physically unable to work, but I have no doubt that a big portion of that was because the workplace was not workable for them. And had the environment been better,
Yep.
perhaps they would have been able to remain independent and fulfilled and working. And I just love this. So, can we just take a step back? I think we're making the assumption that every health coach listening really knows what fibromyalgia is and what the symptoms are and why it's so debilitating. Can we start with that and then maybe parlay that into what does that then mean for a client of yours that may want to speak to their employer
Okay.
on what can make this better? So, do you mind taking a step back and explaining that?
Well, fibromyalgia is diagnosed primarily in women. Only 5%, 5 to 10% maybe, are men. Okay. So I think there's like 5 million Americans that have it. But then I think with COVID, it's going to become more prevalent because one of these symptoms or the causes of fibromyalgia is stress. You know,
Mm,
during COVID, everybody had stress, whether it's financial, family. You know, now I'm a teacher and I'm working. I'm working at home. I'm my own boss. I have to manage my time. You know, so there's all those stressors plus the financial piece. Then we have the stressors of the marriage. And then if there's any accident, illness, surgery, um, you know, any trauma, anything like that. That's a lot of what causes them. It can lay dormant in your body. Like for me, I had a bulging disc in my neck. And so when I had neck surgery, it relieved my pain. But then I started having all over body pain I couldn't manage. Um, and I found out that my mom had it. So it can be hereditary as well. But it's not only body pain, it's like your nerves, you know, that fight or flight. So
yes.
like when something you drop something, it makes a loud crash and you just kind of jump and your senses go. Our senses are like that all the time.
Wow.
And so you can feel that tingling, like your arm is asleep. Um, you know, we have sleep issues. We don't sleep because our brain doesn't shut off. It doesn't relax. It's in that, oh, I got to fight. I got to be ready to fight. We suffer brain fog, cognitive thinking challenges. Um, Flares are the worst because it's really exasperated.
Yeah.
So when I was saying that I was in bed 95% of the time, so take, for example, if you have a bad case of the flu, how you feel. You know, your head hurts, your body hurts, you just want to lay around, moan and groan and feel sorry for yourself, right? So for me, take that times 10. That's how bad I felt every day. So water hitting my skin, no energy to even brush my teeth, take a shower. those kind of things. So that's really where the debilitation comes into for fibromyalgia. So does that kind of give you a better understanding of what it is?
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
what it for me could be different for you, Erin, or for you, Laura. So what works for me may be different for you. So really that's where a coach comes in, I believe, because they experience it, they know what it is. Each one of us has our own niche, and we help you figure out what's going to work for you.
and it's such a misunderstood disease, right? I mean, like it's undiagnosed, or I think some doctors don't even believe it exists, if I'm correct.
That is correct. So many people don't believe us and they think it's all in our head. And I just want to say, live in our body one day, just one day.
I mean, yes, I feel like that declaration goes for a lot of chronic illnesses, especially ones like that are kind of subclinical or not well understood. It's like, listen, I don't care what your textbook says. I'm in misery. Like, and this, so this is the beautiful thing about a coach, especially this is a lot of the reason why coaches have come through their own chronic health issues, make such good allies.
Yeah.
Because it's like, not only do I know what this feels like, but I also know what it feels like to not be believed or to not have a diagnosis or have a doctor kind of patting you on the head and sending you on your way. Um, really, really beneficial for clients to have a coach that's walked this sort of path. Um, so I have a client right now who's got lupus, and I don't want to get into the rabbit hole of every single chronic illness,
Right.
but it sounds similar. Are they similar?
They can be similar and they can be misdiagnosed as lupus as fibro and fibro as lupus.
Okay.
But I think you can have both. I mean, somebody with fibromyalgia has probably 10 different other diagnoses as well.
Yeah. So is lupus officially an autoimmune condition? And has fibromyalgia been put in that to the best of my knowledge, I don't know if it's been categorized as that. It's like this nebulous thing. And this is why doctors think you're making it up because they
Right.
haven't, because they can't figure it out. Obviously it's not real, you
Right.
know?
And I
Oh,
think the other thing for doctors to give them the credit is they don't get a lot of training in med school about it. So they may get 10 or 15 minutes out of their whole training or education. So I think it is just one of those diseases, but as it goes on, they're going to do more research and, continue with that kind of stuff. We just have to be our own advocates, do our training. And it's been where I was an HR director in healthcare, and I had to teach some of my nurses about fibro.
yeah.
I worked with a really good doctor. He and I taught each other about it. And I think that's great when the medical community is willing to learn from fibromyalgia patients.
Yeah. So what kind of doctor do you go to then? Is it like a chronic pain physician? It's because you wouldn't go to a rheumatologist or anything if it's not technically an autoimmune condition, or where
There
does,
are some doctors who are rheumatologists that can help you. You can go to pain clinics.
Mhm.
It just kind of depends on if the doctor has been open and willing to learn about it and if they've gotten extra training on it.
Yeah.
Some just PCPs can do it. Some, like I said, are neurologists, like I said, pain doctors.
Yeah. I would imagine
That's,
the functional medicine community is
yeah,
likely the most open-minded.
yeah, very true.
Wow. So, I mean, how did you finally achieve kind of your diagnosis? And what made you decide, I mean, I get it. I mean, Erin and we talk to health coaches all the time that had their own health journey. And at some point a light bulb goes off. That's like, I can help other people. Um, what was that like for you? Was it after you realized, hey, there's really no place for me in the office anymore. I don't want to go back there, or I can't, but I can do this. Do you mind sharing that and kind of the mindset around that? Because I think health coaches or people that are curious about this, that have had this in the back of their minds, but still haven't done anything about it,
Hmm.
can really be inspired by stories like that.
When I mentioned earlier, I had moved to Cincinnati and I had
Yeah.
been applying for HR director jobs because I didn't think it'd be that hard to find a job there. Okay. Um, but I'm very much a faith-based person, and I think it was God kind of taking care of me, saying, you know, there's something big coming for you. Don't get this job. And that's when my health really tanked. And I thought I need to learn what it is that's going on, why it's triggering so much here versus back in Nebraska where I was living. So that's when I started the research on it. And I came across the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. And I was the very first class that was trained under Tammy Stacklehouse to become a certified fibromyalgia coach
Cool.
so I could help others because it's such a new niche or new career that so many people who have fibromyalgia have never heard of a fibromyalgia coach.
Mm-mm.
So, in my passion over my whole career has been helping people, through HR. When most people think of HR, they think, oh God, they're scary. They're the firing people, you know. But I was really there to help mentor them, help them grow in their jobs. That was what I loved is helping those people and helping people grow into their positions and whatever. So I kind of took that to the fibromyalgia coaching to help the individuals or my clients learn to grow with the fibro and not fight it all the time. Learn to live with it, change your lifestyle and accept it. And once you do that and learn how to manage it can be a joyful thing. You can have joy back in your life. You can find the gratitude you have every day. And part of, I think, illnesses is all your mindset when you wake up, what kind of day you're going to have. I mean, if you feel rotten, yeah, it can be where I'm just going to have a rotten day. But I like to think of it, I don't feel good, but I'm still going to have a good day. I'm going to sit in the sun. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have movement because movement every day gets our blood flowing, gets the oxygen flowing, and it makes us feel better and our pain goes down.
Ooh, movement.
Interesting. Are you a health coach who wants more hands-on coaching training? Are you thinking about becoming board certified? Primal Health Coach Institute's Master Coach Certification Program checks both of those boxes. It's live, so you get to ask questions as you go, and we cap the number of students for each round so you get individualized attention and plenty of opportunity to practice your coaching skills with faculty and peers. Coaches become great with experience, and this course fast tracks that educational experience so you don't have to spend years learning directly from clients. You'll know exactly how to coach for optimal results in just 12 weeks. It also prepares you to sit for the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches exam so you can become a board-certified health coach. We only offer this certification program twice a year, and it fills up fast. So be sure to learn more at primalhealthcoach.com and reserve your seat soon. I really, honestly, I'm trying to resist the urge to get into the weeds of treating fibromyalgia and the dietary approaches that but
Let's
I'm
get weedy.
curious. Yeah, I'm really curious. So the movement thing really triggered something for me because this is a perfect example of where coaching is useful. You wake up and you're in pain and you know that moving will make you feel better, but you're too sore to move. So I can see how that's something that you really have to, I don't use the word convince, but can you tell me a little bit about sort of how that plays out for the client? Like in your experience working with people. So movement gets their blood flowing. Blood flowing does something. Was it clear? Is it clearing out inflammation? What's it doing? What's the mechanism there?
It kind of gets your blood flowing. It gets the oxygen going in your body. It reduces your stiffness, your soreness, okay?
Okay.
And it helps with your brain fog because we have brain fog really bad, you know. But I suggest starting movement and they'll say, well, I feel too sore. Just walk a half a block.
Yeah.
Do that for 3 days this week. Make that your goal and celebrate those wins. Next week, it's a block. Woohoo. And you might find the first 2 or 3 weeks, you're really sore and you feel worse. But if you get through those 2, 3 weeks, your body's going to start feeling better and you're going to start noticing that difference. And I tell my clients, every movement is a win. So if you need to go shopping and that brings you joy, do it. It's movement. But then we also have to start out learning how much of that movement we can do, conserve our energy. Because if I go out at one point in my life, if I went out and walked 8,000 steps today, I would sleep 28 out of 32 hours.
Wow.
Okay. But if I can go out today after doing all this and walk 12, 13,000 steps, it's okay. But I've conditioned myself over the years and learned to manage that and slowly increase it.
Okay. So you're helping people kind of manage the experience of having fibromyalgia. Are you also helping them put it into remission? Is that a thing? Like,
it is a thing. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think if you learn to manage all aspects of it, physical movement, your diet, your sleep habits, sleep hygiene, all of the gamuts of it, it can go into remission where you are off any medicines for it. Okay. You don't have that daily pain. You've learned to manage your energy. So yeah, it can go into remission, and some people go into remission for a couple years before they have a flare.
Wow. So I'd love to sort of hear more about this. So movement is a part of the program, right? A part of the protocol. So is nutrition. So can you speak to kind of how you lay this out for people? Do you have a sort of, I hate to use the word standardized, but organized sort of protocol that you think, generally speaking, is beneficial for all people that have fibromyalgia? Is there sort of an educational path that you take people to, or is this just, let's have a conversation and it's completely individualized from one person to the other? How do you manage that?
It's completely individualized per person because everybody has it different.
Yeah.
Okay. So for some, let's take diet, for example. Some individuals, gluten is the big key there because of inflammation. For me, gluten is nothing. I went gluten-free and didn't even notice the difference. Okay. For some people, it's sugar, refined sugar. So when I went off refined sugar, I felt so much better. Some people, it's a dietary, nightshades. So it's kind of trial and error with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For physical movement, if I'm working with a client, we'll start out doing stretching, like before you get out of bed in the morning and before you go to sleep. Get out of bed because you're waking your muscles, your joints up, so you're less stiff, sore. And then at night, to try to relax yourself so you can get into that REM sleep. We don't really get into that REM sleep, and our deepest sleep is from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
this is my lupus client. She said that to me verbatim. She really can't get out of bed to make breakfast because she's getting her best sleep when she's supposed to be getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm sure it's very hard for her to get to work then because of that.
yeah, she doesn't work. But I don't know how she would manage it. I don't know how anybody would manage this.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you come in, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I want to think through, I was just thinking, because this other piece to your practice, which is, helping employers understand how to work with or manage or understand, I guess, their employees that are living with chronic illness. And the reason I thought of this, I gave a talk one time I did a corporate wellness presentation at this one company. And okay, it was actually the parking authority. It was the parking lot people. And so there's a lot of people who work late nights, they're doing shift work, they're eating at drive-throughs, they're not the healthiest people. I remember giving this talk, and at least two of the people were nodding off because it was 2 in the afternoon and they were in the middle of their blood sugar crash or whatever it was. And I was thinking, like, I don't know, like I know what it feels like to be, like, for example, pre-diabetic, because I was, and that was my chronic illness, was pre-diabetes, and I couldn't stay awake at work. So I'm seeing these people fall asleep during my presentation and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're probably pre-diabetic. The HR manager who brought me in to do the talk said, I'm really sorry that Bob fell asleep. I don't know what his deal is. Like, he's so checked out. And he's like, the HR manager did not understand.
Right.
Or maybe I don't know that Bob was insulin resistant. I mean, to me, it looked like he probably was. But what do you think? What are employers missing? What are employers missing? Where do they need to shore up their sensitivity / what do you help them understand what these chronic illness suffer? So, for example, the example of, like, somebody with fibromyalgia or lupus can't get out of bed. They roll into work very full, brain foggy, tired, poor sleep. Are you helping the employer manage their expectations around this employee's productivity, or what are we doing here with these folks in the workforce?
Well, one of the first things I do is go in there and make sure that they have policies in place to help protect someone with a chronic illness. Okay. And then I go in and ask them, what kind of job accommodations do they do for someone like that? Do they do flex schedule? Do they do remote work? Do they, if they have sensory issues, because that's another big thing,
Right.
how do they handle all their sensory issues? Just temperature, even people with disabilities, because some disabilities, they're invisible, but they're a disability. How do they handle those? Do they treat them differently, versus someone where you have a disability that's seen, walking with a cane or a wheelchair, versus somebody who has a hard time walking to the front door, but you can't see that they're using some type of an aid.
Mhm.
Just different things like that. Do training with the managers to understand what a chronic illness is. And sometimes, companies are really good about putting absence policies in place, and they're very black and white.
Mhm.
But someone with a chronic illness works a lot in the gray area.
Right.
So yeah, you want to work with them, but you don't want to be preferential. Well, what can we do around that? What kind of accommodations can we do? Those kind of things. Can we do job sharing?
Hmm.
Have they thought about that? Or would they rather just terminate them and always have open positions and high turnover costs, high healthcare costs? Maybe it's even helping them work with a health coach of their area of expertise, fibro, lupus, anything like that.
Yeah. So how do you I guess gain entry into the employer? Is that typically done through your client, like you're asking on behalf, or are you marketing to employers?
I've started marketing to employers. I've done some training with some EAP organizations,
Right.
employee assistance programs, for actually the counselors, and then also doing like lunch and learn with the actual employers, with the HR people, with the managers, with the supervisors. A few years ago, I had developed what I called an HR toolkit, which I sent to clients so they could share it with their employer, like their HR department. What are some of the accommodations that you might see? Is my desk ergonomically correct? But also what me as an employer would see with me as an employee with a chronic illness. Does that make sense? So if I see maybe glassy eyes and something else, what does that mean? That means this. Or if I see someone with earplugs in and yellow glasses on, what does that mean? It means there's sensory issues, noise is bothering them, the lights are bothering them, they're getting a migraine, those type of things. So what can they identify And then how can they, after they've identified it, how can they help them?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, some of the approaches employers can take would be, you know, modifying their absence policy, job sharing, this and that. And you said, or they can just terminate and continue backfilling this role. Is that typically what employers have been doing when they're trying to
Yes.
manage, just terminate, just for poor performance or some cause of
Right.
that? Oh,
So, maybe pre-diagnosis, this might have been a stellar employee.
right.
Okay, stellar. They're like your triple star. Okay, then something happens in their life, they get diagnosed and they tank to a 1 star or this. They can be here, but now they're here, but they're poor performance, they're missing a lot of days. And instead of finding out what's wrong and learning to work with them, well, here you go, you're fired because of this, this, and this. You know, so if research is correct, when you're hiring somebody, you take their salary, let's say it's 100,000, just because that's how my brain works. And benefits are anywhere from 35-50% of that. Okay. So in order to replace that person, it can cost even up to 150,000, because you're not only doing the salary, the benefits, the interviewing, my time, the advertising, all of that to replace this one person. And if you continually have that turnover in 5 positions, think of what the cost is
Right.
for the employer. And then think of their healthcare costs. If I am a fibromyalgia, lupus, celiac, whatever chronic illness, and I'm going to doctor all the time, my healthcare costs and my utilization is up here. But if I work with somebody and my employer learns how to work with me, my stress goes down. So my flares go down. I'm learning to manage it. So my healthcare costs go down. I can go into remission. Okay. So now my utilization and costs are here, but this is the average companies. So that's what they're missing, is that piece and the turnover costs.
Right.
I think the biggest drivers of the growth of health coaching that we're seeing are the entities at the end of the day that are making the biggest investments. And we're seeing this in insurance companies now. They're not necessarily paying for health coaching yet, but there are some that offer some version as a benefit, or they offer other benefits when you hire a health coach. But more and more insurance companies are actually hiring health coaches, and they're running their own programs. They're not doing it right. I've seen them. It's not helpful. But they're trying to figure this out, because insurance companies have seen their own bottom line. And they
Right.
understand that the biggest illnesses that are driving the biggest outlay of cash for them are chronic illnesses that are lifestyle related and can be managed at a much lower cost. So they're starting to, they know that. They recognize, I think, health coaching is something that can help. They're just doing it wrong right now. They're taking that same sort of top-down public health approach to health coaching, which is really a very bottoms-up individual kind of a benefit. But I guess it gives me confidence that we're moving in the right direction. And larger companies are really, to your point, if they have somebody that's already employed and now they have some sort of disability, just firing them, boy. First of all, what the amount of lost time and productivity that goes into waiting, that like the amount of time and the steps they have to go through from an HR perspective just to eventually let that person go. And then, to your point, all the cost of rehiring somebody else, training somebody else, onboarding them. Or I can try to actually work with this client, this employee, and help make them more productive because they were a good employee before. We can find a way. So gosh, my outlook is a lot sunnier now for people that have sort of fibromyalgia, that this is really something that can go into remission, assuming, of course, that we understand what it is, it's diagnosed properly, and we understand the role of coaching. But again, the environment, everything health coaching relating, it's all the environment that surrounds that client. It's just the triggers and the things that need to change will sort of differ from person to person, but there are so many things that are always true in our current environment right now is so toxic. So I would love to hear too, just how receptive these employers are to this message.
It's an uphill battle,
Yeah.
I think it's a very much an uphill battle because I think, and this is just my belief, and this is what I've been seeing, is there's always the bottom line. They're about the bottom line. You know, is it going to make me money? Is it going to cost me money? What's my ROI? And so to get employers to buy into that instead of just
Right.
checking, putting a red X and moving on. So that's the hard part. But then you also have where the employee is scared to say anything
Yeah.
for fear of being fired. But I think it all comes down to the relationship that the employee and the employer have, improving the communication, and showing the employer the long-term benefits on what that's going to be. But I think right now it's an uphill battle.
Yeah. Do you find whether it's smaller employers, mid-sized employers, larger employers that may be more receptive to this, or at least have, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine like a mid-sized company, like really, really big ones might be hard to get into, and really, really small ones might not have the financial resources. But a
Exactly.
mid-sized company is small enough that if you can find the right connection, you can reach a decision maker. They're big enough to understand, why waste time and money if for a smaller investment I can have a more productive, happier employee. Not to mention the ability to not only retain but hire quality employees because you're a great place to work.
Exactly. It's
Right.
about creating that culture.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes so much sense. And so you wrote this book.
Mhm.
How did you self-publish that? Is that something that you send to employers as kind of a way in the door? How do you utilize that book?
I did not self-publish. I worked with a publisher out of DC on it. Um, but I have been sending it out to employers who want it. It's available on Amazon as well. I've even sent it to clients, or I have like an assessment that I do with potential clients, and I'll even send it to them when I'm responding to their assessment. I just want to get the information out there,
Yeah.
so people are aware of it.
It's such an interesting approach. And again, it speaks to coaching because a diagnosed, if it's diagnosed condition like fibromyalgia or any chronic illness, you know, the health coach, maybe the health coach thinks, well, my job as the coach is to put that into remission or help the client, manage or reverse that. But also there's this piece of like managing the experience of it while you're in it, advocating for yourself where you need to advocate, re-empowering or offering empowerment to the client as they're in the thick of the illness, right? It's not always about like healing and curing and whatever. It's also like managing their experience of it at home, at work, in their life, with their own mindset, to your point. I just get excited about hearing folks like yourself, Julie, who have really taken this approach to helping your clients understand and manage their diagnosis.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I think I think it's very cool that you took this approach of reaching out to employers. It seems like, we always talk about this on our podcast and internally at our school, that a lot of coaches want to work in corporate wellness or get their foot in the door. It's hard to do, as you've kind of shared. It's uphill battle. at this point,
Mhm.
not impossible, but you know, it's sort of a thing you can do on the side as you're also help working with individuals to help them manage their
Yeah.
experience. It's an interesting approach. Um, so how do you work with individuals then? We'll go back to the client practice. We always like to hear how people's practices are. We love talking to health coaches who are practicing. So when you're working with clients, do they engage in one-on-one coaching relationships with you? Is it group programming? What's your programming like?
Since it's really like tailored to each individual, I just do one-on-one coaching with them.
Mhm.
And I have found more success in meeting with them weekly basis for 45 minutes, give or take, um, up to 5 months, up to a year,
Yeah.
because then you're really going to have them into the habits that they need, you know. They'll be making the changes and they'll start seeing the success of it. And you've given them that start in their momentum to continue moving forward.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how do your clients find you? I mean, I would imagine again, so I think the fact that you're so nichey probably helps, but do you mind sharing with us kind of how clients find you and how you market and message to them?
It's kind of come in different ways. I've done some podcasts. They found me through that. They have found me through my book. Just Google searches on fibromyalgia coaching. And then also the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute has a Find a Coach page. So in there, it lists all of her active coaches, that are globally, and we each have our own niche.
Yeah.
So if they're looking for HR experience, they'll get me. If they want something else, they'll get somebody else. And also word of mouth. I've had some clients tell other friends or other people they know who have fibromyalgia, oh, my coach was awesome. You need to check her out. Here's her contact information. So a little bit through that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine the more niche you are, like you, someone that comes forward with fibromyalgia and they start doing Google searches. The fact that you wrote a book likely kind of pops you up there as well. So again, another argument for get really specific because you never
Yeah.
know when someone's going to type in the right keyword and they find you. And so tell us too. So you've been on a few podcasts, and they found you that way. Is that has that become kind of part of your marketing? Because I mean, look, I think the more people can pre-experience you and understand your knowledge and get a feel for your personality by seeing and hearing you, the quicker people kind of resonate with you. So what type of podcasts do you look for? Are they general wellness? Are they fibromyalgia specific? Is that a thing? Do they have podcasts that are specific?
Yeah, they do. um, I've done like health coaching, specific fibromyalgia coaching. Um, I've even going into HR podcasts since I'm trying to get
Yeah.
more into working with HR departments and the managers, doing some lunch and learns, that type of thing. So it's just a little bit of everything. Like I said, just trial and error in that area. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all this points to the fact that you are an expert in your field.
Yeah.
And, you're an expert. You've not only have you lived it, but you've written about it, you've spoken about it, you speak about it, you live and breathe it. We always tell health coaches to become an expert in one clear thing. A lot of health coaches are nervous to do that because, first of all, they don't like the word expert. They balk at that word. But if you're not the expert, who is? If you don't declare yourself the expert, somebody else is going to come in and declare themselves the expert. And so we do want to step into our expertise and own it. It also speaks to the fact of like this idea of putting yourself out there. People always want to, that's a very vague question we get asked a lot from new health coaches is how do I put myself out there? And it's like, there's literally a million ways you could do it.
Yeah.
But content and just, I guess it comes down to content. Content marketing could be writing a book. It could be going on some podcasts. It's just declare your expertise, start talking and walking and embodying expertise and
Yeah.
put that work in. then people will find you. When they find you, they'll say, oh, here's an expert in the thing I need help with.
Yeah.
And they can't wait to work with you.
Yeah. So with my company is Coaching PI. The PI stands for positive influence, because I have integrated that into my coaching style,
Hmm.
because I think your positive mindset reflects on how you feel. So if you're negative, you're going to feel worse. You're going to have this pity party. You're going to be negative, complaining all the time. So I don't let my clients do that. We look at the positive aspect of things. And I think that's one thing that has also helped a lot of my clients is changing their mindset with gratitudes. What am I thankful for today as well?
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh, 100%. This is something I speak to my clients about too. Like the opposite of sort of unhappiness is not happiness, it's gratefulness. You
Mhm.
can't just make yourself be happy, but to be able to sit down and think through the things in your life that you are grateful for, that you're just so unholy glad you have.
Mhm.
That practice alone lifts you up, right? And that the more I just focus on the negative, the more negative the whole thing feels,
Mhm.
versus kind of focusing on the positives and how you can sort of leverage that positive feeling, or just leverage what it is about your life that is going well, whether it's a resource that you have access to, relationships. Many of the women that I work with are often working mothers, very busy working mothers, and things like a dirty house and all of this stuff just stresses them out. And the next thing you know, they're pulling their hair out. But at the end of the day, it's, boy, am I grateful that I have a house that's dirty and
Mhm.
healthy kids that run around and trash it. Is it a bummer that my house is messy? But you know what? The fact that I have a messy house is a good thing, right? This is what it says
Right.
about the direction of my life. And I would love to speak to a little bit about your training in terms of what this program did. So I'd imagine it spoke to fibromyalgia and all of that side, the sciencey side, the illness side, but also if it's a coaching program, you really kind of lean into this. Do you have any other I guess, experience in the terms of coaching? Was that from your HR days in terms of kind of how all this rolls up for you?
Yeah, I think so, because I feel like I have coached employees for the entire time I was in HR.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, coaching them how to be a mentor, how to welcome new employees, how to serve their residents, because part of my career was in healthcare for 10 years. And so we had residents. How to, I mean, just do anything like that is coaching them to be a better employee. And I started mentor programs at both of my HR jobs. And so I think coaching just comes naturally to me. Um, so I think that was the easy part. I think the hard part is really feeling like you said, Erin, that I'm the expert. I'm the expert in this because I have done my research, I've done my training, I've done the medical side of the training, but it's really the day-to-day living and then putting it in the workplace. That is my expertise.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind you're the expert in fibromyalgia and the expert in fibromyalgia in the workplace. So
Right. And
just step up to that.
I would imagine too, like those two things might not seem like an obvious connection
no.
until you went out there and started coaching people and realized this was an issue. And
Mhm.
oh, by the way, I've got the experience in that. And so I hope what coaches listening to this take away from is, outside of your health journey and outside of just your training and the programs you've taken, your walk through life and your past professional experience, educational experience, all of that has value that allows you to bring a unique perspective into whatever it is you specialize in.
And I
Yeah.
think what I would recommend is for them to really listen to their clients. And I know that that's hard because we want to help them, so we want to talk, we want to tell them all this, but really listen to them. And I guess that's where came up with this idea. I listened to what they were saying. My HR department is requesting this. My HR department is doing this. My manager is treating me like this. My coworkers are saying this. So I'm listening to all that and I'm thinking, gosh, this is wrong. We could do so much better in the workplace.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I meshed those together, was really listening to what they were telling me.
I love it. Awesome. So you wrote a book, and people listening to this are health coaches who may want to kind of follow your journey and kind of see what you're putting out there. Do you mind sharing with our audience kind of where they can find you and everything you're putting out there so they can keep tabs on what's going on?
Sure. So I have a website. It's coachingpi.com. And under that, it talks about my bio, what kind of work I do, how to get in contact with me. It also has some testimonials. So they can do that. They can you email me through there, or my email is jhamilton@coachingpi. But they can get my book, which is Chronic Illness at Work, through the Amazon website. They can order it on there. So, or if they email me, I usually send it out for free, and we can kind of set up a time when they want to talk and maybe talk about some of the struggles, whether it's a client, what struggles they're having, or the employer side, what can I do better?
Yeah.
Or can you come in and do a lunch and learn? Can you train my staff how to work with each other?
Thanks for sharing this with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it, and it's something I'm very passionate about, is getting this message out to communities, to the public. There is a thing as fibromyalgia coach. And we as employers need to do better in working with chronically ill, because like I said, with this COVID, the shutdown the last 2 years, it's going to become more prevalent, whatever that chronic illness is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.